Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Lash Extension Podcast. I'm Erin.
And I'm Tress. Oh my gosh, and today we are here to talk about nothing and everything all at the same time. We don't have a solid topic planned. We are just going to riff, and we want you guys to be able to get to know us a little bit more. And the fact of the matter is, we are both kind of goofy AF and are very quirky. And I know that you see us from one perspective, right? You guys see us on Instagram and you see us at shows. And Erin and I see a lot of the behind the scenes of each other. And we just thought it would be super fun to talk about who we are and what we do and how we do what we do and why we do what we do and just be
And just
goofy.
riff. Literally, you guys, like, I think that so many people are always surprised about our friendship because we are like the polar opposite people. But at the same time, like, everybody is so curious for us to like pull back the curtain of like our conversations and like
They are wild.
our friendship, because it's just like all over the place, and it is just the funnest thing. I just adore you as my friend. And so today we're talking about nothing and literally just gonna conversate with you guys. I love these kind of podcast episodes too, because I feel like it's just like good background noise. Like when you're driving, it's just like good energy that you can just laugh along with. And I feel
Please
like
go for a drive and enjoy the rest of the show.
Love and enjoy the show.
Okay, so this is what our conversations sound like a lot. Like we're interrupting each other and talking,
Dude,
just like all over the place.
Yeah, for like the podcast, because our microphones, like we have to kind of like wait for the other one to finish their thought before the next one speaks, because it sounds better on the like audio. But in real life, we're just like, oh yeah, then I have this thought, and then we buddy trail there, and then we buddy trail there.
Were you low-key sending me a message there?
No.
About not talking over you? You weren't?
No! It wasn't at all. No, I'm just letting everybody know who doesn't have a podcast, like how the microphone situation works, because
I'm laughing so hard I can't breathe.
You start wheezing. Oh my god. She's like, are you shading me right now? I need you.
Oh man, if you guys can hold on for this one, I see us going good places.
Oh my god. Yeah, so we're also somewhat testing this because for the last like 3 episodes, no, more than that. Holy cow. We like the last like 5 too many episodes that we have recorded, like hours of episodes, you guys. We cannot, for like, we're having technical issues so hard, which again, we want to apologize that we have not been on our like weekly schedule for posting, because Lord knows technology has not been on our side with this platform. I don't even know what's happening. So we're
like,
testing
we have
this today.
The last 2, or I think we've had 3 episodes total we've had to scrap completely because they just like weren't doing the thing.
And we couldn't download them.
Yeah, we haven't been able to we haven't been able to download them. And for several episodes, if you were like, hey, if you heard us say, hey, sorry about the technical difficulties, that's because it just like stopped and kicked us off randomly and was like, see you later, guys. So
dude, it literally just keeps crashing.
So I feel like this is a really good way to come back and see how it goes. Oh, yeah. We are only 3 minutes in.
Okay, so also we kind of want to give you guys little life updates, because we have never done that on our episodes, or
never
on our episodes, on our podcast. We've never done that. And like, we did our origin story of our friendship, like how we met and how the podcast began, but I don't think that we've done any like behind the scenes of like our lives and who we are as people.
No,
nothing. So we have lots that's happened over the last couple of months that we want to let you guys in on, and you've probably seen some of it on Instagram anyway. Some really, really big, exciting things have happened.
They have.
Drum roll, please.
Oh boy. Thank you for that.
Some ASMR for your listening ears.
I appreciate it. I'm sure everybody else does too.
Okay. Should I introduce it or should you introduce it?
Well, assuming that we're talking about the same thing, because we might not be.
We're talking about the same thing.
Oh, okay. I got a new job.
Teresa Larson has a new
I'm super excited about it. It's something that like happened super organically and just like out of the blue. The pieces fell into place, and I don't know, it's just been wonderful. So I was recently announced as the creative director for PLA, and it's been a cool journey. I'm excited to be working on all of the things that I'm working on behind the scenes. It's been really fun to get to know the team and get to know, I don't know, just get to like see how I can take all of the things that I have learned and been passionate about over my entire career and bring it into a new place and watch it grow. It's been awesome.
I'm so excited for you. Literally, you guys don't know this because obviously it was like behind the scenes, but as soon as they went live on the Paris Lash Academy's Instagram page, it's still there. You guys can go watch it if you haven't seen it yet. It's still there, the live video, and her and Michelle crushed it. They're just the most precious people and I adore them dearly, but they went live, and after the live I FaceTimed Tress because I was lashing during the live, and I immediately, as soon as my client had left, I just FaceTimed Tress as fast as I could, and I just screamed in the phone.
And I was like surrounded by people in the office, and because I was in Reno for the Lash Business Masterclass that PLA puts on like twice a year, and so everybody like popped on to say hi to Erin, and she was still like squealing in the background, and I was like, I gotta go, I love you, I'll call you later.
Oh, it was so cute. I loved it. Yeah, I had no idea that there was a room full of people. I just screamed
whole room full of people.
And I was like,
even in the live, like Michelle and I were on the camera, and there was like a whole audience of people around us, and like Paul and Tuscany were there for a few minutes to like watch and like celebrating and stuff, and oh my gosh, it was like a feat of willpower to not be distracted. Like everybody was like just cheering us on and really excited, but at the same time I definitely have ADHD. That was like an adult diagnosis. Adult diagnosis. And so ADHD is something that I've definitely dealt with my entire life, and not in like the low key, like, oh, doesn't everybody have ADHD? Like, nah. Not everybody's brain works like mine.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was cool. I'm excited to do all the things. Actually, you know what's really interesting? This is something that I know you are really good at, and I think like passionate about in certain ways, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. But marketing is something that I've actually always really loved, because I love making things better. I love making them sound better. I love making them look better. Like, marketing is something that I'm super, super interested in, and it's something I've been doing for a really long time now. And
you're so good at it.
Oh, thanks. Specifically on the social media side of things. And so I just thought I'd share where my inspiration for getting into marketing came from.
I'm ready. We're ready.
Erin's a solid 10 years younger than me. More. I don't know how old you are right now. Oh yes, you are a solid 10. ... Also more than 10 years younger than me. Oh guys, I hope you love us at the end of this.
Oh, freaking hell.
So, but wait.
10 years younger. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. And so there was this movie that I watched when I was a teenager. And so those of you who are, up there in years with me, might know what it is. It's a Mel Gibson movie called What Women Want. Have you ever heard of it?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So in the movie What Women Want, besides the fact that like he can hear what women think and loves Frank Sinatra and drinking wine, which is like all great things, they work at like a massive marketing firm, and they do like late night brainstorm sessions, and like him and this chick that are, kind of, it's a romantic comedy, that are kind of going back and forth, and they have to work together, and they're constantly trying to like one up each other with whatever they're pitching in this marketing firm. And I started thinking differently after watching that movie. Oh, I don't know, probably too many times. But I started thinking differently, and I would like see a billboard and like go over it in my brain and be like, how could this be better? How would they word this differently? How could this be more enticing? And I've like literally thought like that since I was 16. So then when I got into the social media side of things, and then in the Lash world ended up in marketing, it kind of happened by accident. Actually, it super happened by accident, but I kept having these like little flashbacks to this movie, and like all of these times throughout my life that I've analyzed how things can get better and be better. And it's just like so fun for me because it like challenges me, and I love it. But Erin, you are very skilled at marketing, and you are very good at, you know, helping people see the value in things. So what can you tell me, were you ever like drawn to that, or is it just something that you fell into because it's what you needed to do for your business since you were on social media and like had things to offer?
I think that more than anything, you guys, also, I need to preface this. I am constantly clearing my throat, and it's because I think that I have like damaged my throat and my windpipe and literally like my breathing organs from my glue for many years, and I'm not exaggerating that. So like if you always hear me like clearing my throat in these episodes or just in life, it's actually like a thing. So
I wish you could see my face right now because I'm having so many light bulb moments right now.
Yeah, no, it's actually a thing. I actually have like been seeing doctors for it for like a year, and like ear, nose, and throat doctor, like it's a thing. So if you ever hear that of me, like it's I can't help it.
Guys, we're learning this at the same time.
Also, wear your masks with glue because it's a real thing.
Please, dear God, and not just like little flimsy blue mask things, but like actually wear masks that like filter out VOCs. Like,
otherwise
please
you'll
do
be
that.
like me. Otherwise you'll
or like
be
me.
Like me.
If I'm around glue for 15 minutes,
yeah, you're so
have
allergic.
A headache. My nose is running. I get super stuffy. If I do a fill, an hour-long fill, and I'm not masked, I will be sick for the next 24 hours.
Yeah, you're super allergic. I don't know that I'm allergic. I think that it's just like years and years of like accumulated damage that's been done to my like ear, nose, and throat system. And so, yeah, like they wanted to do like brain MRIs to see the base of my skull. Like it's like been it's been like a thing for a while. Maybe one of these episodes we'll talk about talk about something like that. So I have to apologize. I try to mute my mic like if I have to cough or something in between like talking on normal episodes, but because we're riffing in this conversation, then I'm just like not muting my mic.
I do it every time I have to sniffle. So same, yeah, but different.
And today my voice is feeling like extra weak. So I'm just warning you guys if I have to cough. That being said, I think that my like marketing interest started because originally, if you watch the origin episode or listen to the origin episode of our podcast, or my origin story as just like building Monarch Lash Co., I kind of fell into the lash industry accidentally. And originally I was a caregiver. And when I was a caregiver, I got really interested in human design and social sciences and sociology and just like overall just human development. And so psychology was something that I've always been interested in. And Tress knows this because we have really deep conversations and have for years. Like, I want to understand why people do what they do. Like, the psychology of humans fascinates me more than anything. Like, the human development and human design I could talk about that for years and years and years. Like, that's like something that I am just the most passionate in. And so I think that, you know, the neuromarketing side of like psychologically marketing to people fascinates me. Like, consumer behavior fascinates me to no end. Like, I love studying my own consumer behavior. I love studying other people's consumer behavior. I love, you know, running A/B tests. I love just like testing the market and like getting to know your audience better. Like, overall, it's kind of just like a fun, I don't know, I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing what people are interested in and then like following the trends. Like, it's just the most fascinating thing to me to see how social media has evolved and kind of like how it affects humans' minds, and how it also plays into businesses, and how nowadays businesses are either flourishing or failing because of the like social constructs and the social media and kind of like their social currency, if you will. That's literally what it's turned into, is social currency with social media. Which is just like a whole nother topic. But I think that that's where my like marketing interest came in. I love being innovative. I love honestly just thinking outside the box. Every time that like growing up that something was going one way or people were interested in one thing, I always did the opposite, because it was just so fascinating to me. Like, why do people flock to that one thing? Like, why are humans as a species kind of this pack mentality that everybody kind of follows this one trend or whatever? And so I've always kind of been interested in like the outskirts and kind of like having a bird's eye view of, you know, human beings as a species, and studying myself and studying how I could be better and overall. So I think that that's where my marketing has come in. And I think that that's why Monarch Lash Co. is so different than a lot of other lash brands, is like I've taken very different angles than a lot of other lash brands have. And I very much created contrast, at least from my point of view. I've created a big contrast in, you know, when I was first getting into the lash industry, and even nowadays, there's a lot of lash brands that are identical, like identical aesthetics, identical colors, identical brands, identical fonts, identical everything. And when I came into this industry, I wanted to follow my own, and I fell into that, truthfully, transparently. When I first got into this industry, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the beauty industry. I have to like change everything that I'm doing, and I have to follow the trends, and I have to do it the way that other people are doing it. And like for a while, I saw everybody doing a certain type of aesthetic that I don't want to say copied, because that's not the right term, but I felt like I needed to conform in order to be in this industry. Right. Because if everybody else was doing this and it was working for them, then that means that like I had to do this. Until one day I was like, no. It actually was like a huge pivotal moment in my life. And I was like, no, like I am no longer going to conform to this. It doesn't feel authentic to me. And I'm sure other people can notice that energy. Like when it is not you and your brand is not you, it doesn't sound like you, it doesn't look like you present completely different than what your brand is looking like. Honestly, it's going to hurt your brand more in that direction, with creating your personal brand, creating your product brand, whatever you're doing, and your clients are going to be meeting something that your aesthetic completely doesn't align with. So for me, I had this really pivotal moment that I was like, no, I'm going to have confidence in myself to stand out and to do something that's actually me. Like I don't fit into this general aesthetic that everybody's kind of having and wearing and doing and whatever. And so I had kind of a come to Jesus moment with my confidence and being okay with being, I don't want to say the word controversial, but just contrasting. With different. And so from that point on, Monarch Lash Co. really took a completely different direction. And that's when it really grew. And I started getting noticed, and I started having different conversations with people, and like it just felt so much more authentic in that direction. And so like even looking back on that, just objectively looking back on those scenarios, that fascinates me on like my own human development and my own kind of the pivots that happened in my brain, and like all of the multifaceted layers that it took for me to actually gain the confidence to do something different. Like it's just so fascinating to me. So that's, I mean, the really long version and a sort of bunny trailed of like.
No, it's okay. It's interesting because you mentioned earlier that people are like, how are you guys friends? Because we present very differently, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think that's part of the reason that we're friends, is because like we became friends, 4.5 years ago now?
Yeah.
Like I don't have a solid timeline on that, but we became friends a long time ago and had many conversations behind the scenes that nobody knew about. Like we weren't out there like holding hands and skipping down the hall together, you know, like on social media, but we spent a lot of time together, like on the phone and just like working through stuff. And I think what really from my perspective, what really brought us together in that friendship is the fact that we have both been on a self-improvement journey like this entire time.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
You've been into it in like one perspective. I've been into it in a little bit of a different way, but like we both bring those perspectives together to the middle of the table and like help each other through the things that we're going through, or help analyze what we're thinking, or help go, hey, like my brain won't stop spinning on this. Like, can you help give me perspective here?
Yeah.
And I think it's really what's helped us be friends. And I think it's funny because I know some people like are looking at us with this podcast going, wow, that came out of the blue. And we're like, if you only knew, man.
Yeah,
like,
totally did it.
We're just bringing our conversations public instead of private at the moment.
Yeah, like I definitely agree with that. I feel like both of us, all that our focus is just as humans is like, we just want to see how much better we can get. Like we're constantly just trying to be a better version of ourselves, and we hold each other accountable in a lot of ways, which is something that I value about our friendship so much. Is like we always we're accountability partners within the most loving way, but also like a soundboard when we need it, and like a grounding pad when we need that too, and a confidant, and like so many different versions of what in my mind a good friend is. And like a part of I would say the majority of our conversations has been like, okay, where's my accountability in this? How can I be doing better? What can I take away from this? Like from your perspective, how could I be, improving on this? And how could I be handling this better? How could I be doing this better? And like it's constantly just like introspective from an outside perspective of like, I'm spinning on this, I can't see through this fog right now that feels so close to me. So like you, somebody who's detached from this situation or this perspective, how do you see the situation? And it just like, it's such a beautiful kind of relationship in the way that we can offer perspective and offer, I want to say wisdom, like just a wonderful wisdom from each of our life experiences that really helps both of us either move through things or expand our thought processes, or just like think bigger in certain scenarios that normally maybe we were thinking more small. Like we have so much of like, that's the basis of our friendship, I would say, is like we just both want to be better versions of ourselves and serve the world better, and think about ways that we can be more helpful to serving others. And like that's literally all of our conversations.
Yeah. And until like before that sounds entirely too altruistic, it doesn't mean that just because we're how do I want to put this? When we're trying to think about how we could do better or could have done better or think about something differently, because like our thoughts are so important. Like being able to, I would say, like not master our thoughts, but being able to be so aware of our thoughts is something that I've been working on for a really long time. And that doesn't come without its downfalls. Like we both have a tendency to overthink. We both have a tendency to overanalyze, and then we challenge each other. So like in this moment, what I would do, just like I would do if it was Erin having a conversation with me, what I want to do is challenge you the next time you want to reach out to a friend and just vent. Also ask them to challenge the way that you're thinking. Also ask them to go, okay, but will you give me the other side of this? Because it brings things to a very healthy perspective. And I will be the first person to say that I have not always been like this. This has been like a, in my mid 30s to late 30s now, like this has been the journey that I've been on. But even especially as a teenager, as a young adult, as like, I don't know, mid adult. I don't know how to say that, but that wasn't my priority, right? Like, yes, I always wanted to do good. I always wanted to help people. I always wanted to lift women up and help them feel beautiful and help them feel confident. But I wasn't always looking to myself to go, how could I have affected this person differently, or how could I look at this situation differently? And it's having somebody that will stand up and challenge me on it, and that I'll challenge too. And so like when we call each other because something's up, we never just go, oh my gosh, you poor thing, and then feed into it.
Right.
We go, okay, how can I help you challenge that thought? How can I help you challenge this pattern? And
it's very like solution oriented, I would say.
Yes.
Like we're not sitting here and almost encouraging, you know, a self-loathing thought. Like we're very validating to our friend, like to our each other when we're going through something. But at the same time, we're like, okay, let's work through this. Like how can we get to the other side of this? How can we get you through this?
And if you have a friend or if you're like, hey, I want a friend like that, but I don't have a friend like that, you can start to either be that friend. I mean, that can be a little tricky to just like challenge somebody out of the blue when they're not used to it. But if you can start that relationship by going, hey, can you challenge me? Hey, can you give me a way to think about this differently? They might reciprocate that the next time you guys have a conversation. And it could turn into a relationship that builds.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what I want to avoid, what I have been stuck in the past are relationships that tear down. And I only want to be in relationships that build now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time I'll literally just text Tress in the middle of the day with like no message. Like I don't pleasantries, forget it. Like I'm not like, hey girl, how's your day going? Like, no. I literally will just text her out of the blue, no conversation happening. Whenever I'm like really sitting and stirring on a thought that I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot stop overthinking this. Like I've found myself in like the spiral of thought around this topic. So I will literally just text Tress and be like, hey, do you have space so I can talk about this? I'm just looking to soundboard off of you about this and maybe just hear your perspective. And literally like that opens up that conversation for you to just like tell your friend what's going on, where your mind's been at, and then just get a different perspective. And all of a sudden it stops my like a spiral of thought. And a lot of the time while we're on the phone, I'm like, I just need to hear somebody else's voice right now. Like I've said that to Tress a million times. Like all I can hear is my voice. I'm so tired of hearing my voice and spiraling on this one topic and my, you know, these lies that are in these stories that my brain is telling me right now. Like I just literally need to hear somebody else's voice say something different. So now I can start repeating that sort of mantra in my mind. And so now I'm hearing somebody else's voice and it immediately stops my mental spiral in situations that I am overthinking. And so that's something that I really value about our relationship. And a lot of the time, like if she texts me in the middle of the day and was like, hey, do you have time to chat really quick? Like I'm like, yeah, like we as quickly as we can make time to just like pop on the phone really quickly or send voice messages back and forth constantly.
Apparently, unless it was last night. Sorry about that.
That's okay. It was also like 10 p.m.
Yeah, you guys, Erin's a little bit more of a night owl and I am an early bird.
I am so not. I'm in bed by like 9.
I woke up naturally at 5 a.m.
Woof.
Today.
No. No. I don't know how you do that with blackout curtains in your room too. Like your room is pitch black.
I don't know. My circadian rhythms are on point. But like, so this is a really good thing that you touched on because like we've both been in a self-discovery journey. We've both been in like a self-improvement journey. We've both been on like coaching journeys, right? And one of the biggest things that I learned was how everything between our ears in that like gray matter area, everything is a story. Like we think in stories, we project in stories, we literally tell ourselves stories. And one of the things I was talking with a client about the other day is that, you know, if we see a woman, then this is an analogy that I've used for a really long time. So I'm actually going to Greece this summer with Lash Boss retreats and I am like stoked. But this isn't an analogy that I used long before that. It's like if you see a picture of like a woman at the top of the stairs at like that super famous like coastline area in Greece, like you see the blue water and you see all of like the white houses and hotels and the pools and like the blue dome, and you know there's like this very specific area in Greece that's like very picturesque and very well known. And it's very popular to go to like the top of like a staircase and have like this very flowy dress on and like have like this woman like stand looking out over the ocean and her dress is like flowing in the breeze. And it's really easy to look at just a snapshot of that and tell ourselves an entire story behind it. Like, oh, well, like if she's holding somebody's hand, that must be her like gorgeous, fit, tan fiance who's then going to like walk her down to the beach, and like there's going to be a boat there waiting for them with like champagne and fruit, and they're going to dance the night away, and they're going to like go to sleep in each other's arms. And like, it's so easy to tell ourselves an entire story about that person's life just by seeing that picture. But what we're not actually seeing, like the story that we're not telling ourselves, is that there are 3 photographers there, and there's a huge fan connected to like 4 extension cords to like blow her dress, and that there's people holding her dress up, and her fiance are fighting, and he's like 5 steps away on the phone yelling at somebody in his business. And you know what I mean? Like, we never tell ourselves that story, but like,
yeah. And if it was me, I'd be like falling down the stairs. Like, I'd be like, the one photo that actually looks decent, I like that I didn't fall in, then that's the one that gets posted. Yeah.
And it's just interesting if you think about your life. If I think about my life, even if you're like, if something happens and you're like, what's going to happen next? The only thing that happens in your brain is story after story after story of different scenarios. And it doesn't have to be, because like, when was the last time you perfectly predicted the future with a story?
Yeah, it's like the same thing. Like when you like, we always hear the term like preconceived like expectations, or like preconceived assumptions of how somebody's going to be. Literally, that term preconceived assumptions is literally just stories. Like, yeah,
replace it with stories.
Yeah, you have told yourself stories about that person, so now you have built expectations in your mind to how they're going to be, how they're going to talk to you, how they're going to act, how they're going to interact with people, how they're going to speak, how they're going to XYZ. You fill in the blank of whatever story, you know, falls into that fill in the blank. But like, that's literally all that it is. And our brains, I think that, like I said, the more that I've studied this and like the psychology of the mind, what's happening is that our bodies and our brains want to have predictability, because as a species, and literally as like a as a mammal, we need predictability on biological level in order to sense danger. So like, if you get back down to our absolute roots of a species, and just like, if you can look at human beings as an animal, not as smart of a creature as we have evolved into being, like, if the basis of our systems need predictability, because that means safety to our nervous system. Like, the more that we can predict and kind of foresee what's coming to us, the more we can formulate our, you know, war plan, if you will, to be able to either dodge that or to make our way through that, whatever's coming. And so that makes it feel, I mean, I want to say false. It's falsely safer in our mind, because we're just trying to predict the future. So that's a lot of what anxiety comes in, is because we're thinking about the future of something that hasn't even happened yet, isn't guaranteed to happen, but
most likely won't happen.
But we're going to sit here and we're going to tell ourselves stories, and we're going to find every solution to every potential A through Z problem that could possibly come up through that situation that's we're thinking and assuming is going to happen, in order to have predictability, in order to feel safer moving through that. And so like, that's our fight or flight sort of system that is trying to rear its ugly head in order to create stability in our life. And like, I mean, on a biological level, it has served a lot of purposes, because when you can sense danger and you can predict danger, then it keeps you alive. Like, quite literally, that's where it comes from. And so if you can stay alive, that's the ultimate goal of like our body's system, is literally to do everything that it possibly can to keep us alive. So that's why, you know, a lot of diseases and things, like, our body will prioritize certain organs to keep us alive, even if it means certain parts of our bodies no longer are working or functioning as well. So like, our body's literal system is to keep us alive. That also falls into every brain system in our body as well. So if it comes to mental health, for example, everything that our body can do to predict and keep us safe mentally, it's going to do. And so stories is where a lot of our, you know, assumptions and stuff are coming from, because in some false turned around way, it makes us feel safer, to feel like we can predict what potentially could happen, and then we're prepared, right?
Right. But all that does is cause anxiety, right? So, okay, not all that does. That does a lot of things. You just explained all of the things. But the end result from my perspective, and like, this is coming from somebody who has struggled with and suffered from severe anxiety by turns throughout my life, right? Like when I was in my early 20s, anxiety and depression were literally controlled my life. Like I was not I was not an awesome, fully functioning adult in my early 20s. I was very much not functioning. And throughout the years, like anxiety's gotten worse, it's gotten better. I'm super thankful that depression isn't something that I deal with anymore on the level that I ever used to. Like I don't think it's something that I've dealt with for years, and I'm really thankful for that. But going back to anxiety, like what these stories do and what telling ourselves all of these different versions or all of these different potential outcomes does is it just builds up and like destroys us on the inside. And so what I needed to learn, like for me specifically, is like I needed to learn that whatever the outcome is going to happen anyway. And so me pretending that I can predict the outcome by thinking of every worst possible outcome, like it didn't serve me well.
Yeah.
The anticipation was where the anxiety was. And so I was able to, like, the more I was able to pare back and live in the present moment and slowly stop that cycle of telling myself stories constantly. Don't get me wrong, it still happens, just not nearly as much as it used to. That was really helpful. And so like two of the things that helped me immensely was my coach, Ben, and how much he helped me be able to identify when I was telling myself stories, because I didn't know. Like I very much didn't identify it by myself. But also it was the book called Right Now, Mastering the Beauty of the Present Moment, I believe. But it's Right Now by Steve Chandler. And I literally listen to that book on repeat, guys. And it's not for everybody. He talks really slow. It sounds like it's like this old guy talking in slow motion. But it's kind of like my security blanket at this point, because every time I feel like I'm telling myself stories or trying to predict the future, I will go back and start listening to this book again. And it helps ground me and bring me back to the present moment and remind me how to do that and why to do that. And my life really opened up after that.
Yeah, I really like that. I feel like it sometimes can set us up for disappointment too. Because if you're telling yourself the story and you're working up this expectation in your mind, and then that scenario, whether it's good or bad, doesn't end up happening in the way that you predicted it, it's almost like, okay, now that had a backwards like turnaround effect.
Yeah.
That like now I'm having to work through the jarring that just happened, where like I was expecting this one thing and now I'm either disappointed, or now I'm more in fight or flight because I was anticipating something else that I was prepared for, and now I wasn't prepared for this. So now it feels like I was just hit sideways. So now I'm like automatically put back into fight or flight of like, now I have to like work through something else. And it could have been totally avoided, that panic or that, insecurity that ends up happening, that now you feel like you just got knocked back and now you're working from like the rug just got pulled out from under you. And so now you're working from a completely different angle that could have been completely avoided had you not been adopting the stories that your brain's telling you. So like moving forward with this, that's like the biggest thing to take away, I suppose. What we're talking about is like, it's natural for our brains to tell us stories. It's whether or not you choose to believe them and adopt them as your truth is when you start crossing that line of like, okay, now all of a sudden I believe what my brain is telling me. And that's when the expectations are being built. And that's when bad things can happen or good things can happen. It depends on what it is. If you're trying to convince your brain that, I'm in this really shitty current situation right now, whether it be financially, in this relationship, and wherever you're at right now, and you're trying to get yourself out of that, then you can do the opposite of what we're talking about. It's not all bad to tell your brain stories. You can convince your brain that everything is really good, and you can start working more in the